I'm Rosanne Bane, and I'm teaching the online class Entering the Flow. If you've been thinking about writing a novel or a memoir, you're probably wondering, how do I structure this? How do I do this? Do I just sit down and start writing, which seems like a really huge and almost impossible task? Or do I structure it and find out exactly where we're going before I start writing, which can also seem like a huge and almost impossible task? Some people will tell you that you need to structure a novel or a memoir before you begin. You need to have an outline, you need to know where you're going point by point. The problem with this is that because you haven't imagined the whole story yet, because it's so big, your outline might come more from your intellect and logic than from the imagination. So your writing might seem more derivative, less creative than you really want it to be. The other problem with writing an outline is that some of us, like me, seem to be constitutionally incapable of writing an outline. We had to write in college and high school where you had to write the outline before you turned in the paper. I had to write the paper early so I could write the outline from the paper. And the outline also, for me and a lot of other writers, it seems like there isn't any fun in it. It's like boring. I got the outline, now there's no discovery left. So some of us think, well, we'll just sit down and by the seat of our pants, we'll just start drafting and see what happens. The problem with this is, as I discovered using this method for my first and my second novel, is that you write rambling draft after rambling draft, and you still don't know exactly where the story's going. Or you write a really big novel, which is what I did, and then realize I need to trim this, but I don't know where to cut. Because now it seems like this is the way the story goes. And because you've drafted it and worked with it, you're really invested in it, so it's hard to let things go. Or you realize on page 150 that you should have made a different decision back on page 50, and so now you're realizing that you should have zigged when you zagged, but you're like, no, I don't want to know, but that does not help. So you need some structure to keep you from going astray, but you don't want so much structure that you end up just being intellectual and logical about it and losing the imagination. So the Entering the Flow class is for those of us who want a third alternative, a way of figuring out a novel or a memoir or other long piece of prose without getting stuck in the outlining, without getting stuck in too much drafting. Robert Olin Butler, a Pulitzer Prize winner, wrote Legend of Bagger Vance, wrote a book called From Where You Dream, and in this book he describes that third alternative. He calls it dream storming, which is a state where you kind of get into that really relaxed writer's trance flow state where if you were drafting, you know exactly what to say, your fingers can barely keep up, you can see and hear what's happening in the story. It's almost as if you're there. And this is what we use in this third alternative, except that instead of drafting in this place, you simply let the scene unfold in your imagination, completely unfold. And then after that, you write just a sentence fragment about the scene. You resist the urge to write the whole scene. And you do this for several weeks, and you imagine all the scenes you can think of in no particular order, and you can even imagine contradictory scenes. So in one place you zig, in another place you zag, and later you'll figure out which direction is best for the story. So you do the dream storming, you write up all these scene cards, and later, which can take several weeks, and then later you structure at the level of the scene cards. So you're laying out the cards to discover the structure of the story, then you start drafting. You may be wondering if that really works. I know I did. So I tried it, and I wrote a novel novella using this method, and it worked, and it was really fun. I've had several students from previous classes who are working on their second draft. They finished the first draft, and I have a coaching client right now who wanted to write a novel. For 10 years she tried to write this novel, and when we started working with this method, she got the cards done in a couple of months, and she's now about halfway through the first draft and going really strong. So I know it's a method that works. What we'll do in the class is I created some audio recordings that will guide you into the relaxed state and then into what Butler calls that writer's trance or that dream-storming place. Butler says several times, just go into your writer's trance, as if that's the easiest thing in the world to do. So that's why I started teaching this class, because I know how to help people get to that place. You can listen to the audio recordings as often as you like, and I think you'll find with practice that you can enter that trance place, that writer's trance, that flow place, consciously and intentionally without the cards. So you'll be able to continue this for a long time. We're going to look at several topics in Butler's book, From Where You Dream. We'll take a look at the whole dream-storming method, what to do with the cards when you've got them done, how to draft from the cards. We'll also look at what he has to say about sensory journal and why and how specific sensory details are so valuable. We'll also take a look at some habits that I found that make it a lot easier to keep showing up day after day. And we'll take a look at writer's rituals, why they work. We'll look at how to create the time and space you need to keep writing. We will have online chats once a week where most or all of you will show up and we'll have a chance to interact via the keyboard. And we also have discussion forums. The more you contribute to the discussion forums, the more we all get out of the class. It's a place where you can just talk about your experiences, what the exercise that you did this week, what your reaction to that was or your response to that. Ask questions that I and other students will respond to. It's a real place to create that online community. In addition to the online chats and the discussion forums, there will be exercises each week. And of course, this being an online class, you get to log in and work with the exercises, the trance writing recordings, all of that when you want and as often as you like. I will also read and respond to up to 10 pages of your previously written material. You won't be drafting or generating a lot of new material in class. What you will be doing is developing your story with the scene cards. And in the last couple of weeks of class, we will look at how to use those scene cards to structure the story and to draft from, so that you'll be prepared to do that when class is complete. So you'll have tools that you can take forward and keep working with. And of course, I love to hear from my students about where they are, how their novel or their memoir is developing. That's one of the best parts of teaching this class. So I hope if you're thinking about writing a novel or a memoir and you're wondering, how the heck do I make this happen? How do I show up? How do I write what I want to write? Consider this class. I would love to see you in Entering the Flow. Thanks.